Welcome. Welcome, everyone. I hope that you had a chance to enjoy Passage Theater's production of A Twist of Water. My name's Cherry Oakley. I'm going to be your moderator for this evening, this afternoon. I just moved my daughter back from college and today, literally, and a little tired. My brain's slow. So I hope you're this being part of this talkback. You're going to have an opportunity to hear from two special guests. And we will start off by getting them to introduce themselves. If you have any questions for our guests today, if you are able to put them into the chat, which is going to be to the right of the screen, the YouTube screen that you have. So hopefully you'll exit full screen, and then you'll look over to the right and you'll see your own icon, and then there'll be something next to your icon that says say something. That's where you would type in your question there. It'll be grabbed and I will read it out, and we will get our guests to answer. Let's get started. Would Tim and Kai, would you introduce yourself? Just tell us how you came to this talk back today.
Go ahead.
My name's Kai Edin-Nelson. I'm a senior program officer at Liberty's Promise. I run after school programs for immigrant high school students from ages 15 to 21, kind of working with them on college and career readiness, as well as community and civic engagement. And how I kind of got brought into the project is, my dad called me one day a couple of weeks ago now and asked me if I kind of wanted to be a part of some kind of a conversation in regards to the play. I didn't really know a lot about it. We had a beautiful meeting with some folks and kind of got an opportunity to talk and discuss. And he told me that, hey, there's this play. The story is about a white father and an African-American daughter. It seems like at least on that part, it applies to us. So would you want to be a part of this with me? So I'm super excited to be able to be here, and that my dad kind of called me and we got to do this thing together.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Yeah, so I am a sociologist at Princeton, living in the Mill Hill neighborhood of Trenton, so right down the street from Passages, which we love. And a friend of mine, Van Smith, is on the board of Passages, and so he emailed me saying, they wanted somebody to kind of play this role regarding the play, and I said, sure, let's see. And so I joined for the read through of the play a couple of weeks ago, and after seeing the main themes, I thought, oh, this is great, because it really intersects a lot with my experience and with our family, and I thought it would be really fun to do this with Kai, because there's a lot that resonated with us in some of the dialogue and so on.
Wonderful. Welcome. So if you had to select some of the most meaningful lines or meaningful sentiments or moments that were in this story, where are the places that you felt you connected right away?
I can kind of take a stab at that. So when I was reading, I think one of the biggest things is I used to sing in a bunch of choruses. And so all of the aspects where Noah's kind of talking about Chicago and the history and things of that nature just brought back a musical number of sorts. It was spoken kind of word, very staccato. And every time I read through those sections, it kind of just brought that back to me, kind of took me back to my childhood. The chorus I was in at the time was in Chicago, so it just kind of brought me back to all of the memories of being in Chicago, what that looked like, and things of that nature. But I think also some of the conversations or some of the things that Jira had to say as well were interesting to me, I think, just because some parts aligned with my own story, but some of them were very different from kind of who I am or what my identity has looked like. So it's just kind of interesting looking through the eyes of someone who in theory has a very similar background, but very different ideas. Sorry about the sirens, but very different ideas about kind of what it meant to have family, who like her identity is, wanting to even find her mother, because the concept of even hearing her say she wants to find her mother, I've always referred to my birth mom as my birth mom, and that's it. Because I have a mom. I have one. Her name's Kathy. She's super dope. So just kind of hearing the differences there, it's just interesting, kind of just seeing her story and her journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot for me too. I think there's one part where Noah, when Jira is determined to find her birth mother, and he is feeling threatened by that, kind of like, why do you need more family? Aren't I enough for you? Basically. And I think, that kind of transcends transracial adoption to kind of every adoptive parent kind of has that sort of fear about being rejected, I guess. And that, and also society kind of puts this trip on you that if you're not biologically related, you're not somehow real family. So that kind of, that speaks to that as well.
Yeah. So, when you were growing up here as a family, and I imagine that the question about how do we sort out, or how do we work through, or how do we plan for or support this whole, moment that is likely to arise about the question about, the becoming familiar with Kai's birth mother. Do you feel like you did something in particular to support that to go in one direction or the other? Did you have any worries or conflicts about how to deal with that when it would show up? If it were to show up, I should say.
Well, I think my recollection, and maybe Kai has a different recollection, is that when she was younger, we said, we support you finding out. We had as much information as we had from the. It was a private adoption through a lawyer, so it wasn't through an agency or anything. But we, I think we had her social security number and her name and where she was at the time. And so I think we had enough information to kind of sort of say, if you really want to find her, then, we put that in your hands when you turn old enough, and we support that if whether you do or whether you don't. At least that's my recollection.
No, I definitely agree with that. I feel like I don't remember, all of the conversations, but I feel like all aspects of the communication about it were very open. If anything, I think they were potentially more into me figuring out whether I wanted to kind of reach out or not than I ever really put like a lot of thought into. So I know for myself, I felt very supported in the fact that knowing that you're down for this, you want to support me regardless, and you're here to kind of help me with that journey should I choose to kind of go in that direction. And when I was in high school, I had a friend who we were looking for some cards, and then we accidentally stumbled upon her records of being adopted, which at that time she didn't know up until that day. So kind of seeing what that could potentially look like. And it was a little different, she's Caucasian, her mom's Caucasian. So obviously I knew that there was something a little different here. But definitely just kind of seeing what that did, kind of like the trauma of that and kind of watching her break down and not understand what that was, just kind of really highlighted, like, thank you guys so much for being who you are and supporting that choice for me to make for myself. So. Right.
Okay. So can you both talk about, I got a chance to read some blog posts by each of you. Amazing. So thank you for sharing that, and giving us kind of a peek into your lives and just how you're perceiving things in the world. So could you guys each talk a bit about what it is that you are doing around the blog post for Passage, and how exactly you figure out what it is that you're gonna blog about?
Well, I think, because it is in service of the play and the production and all on. So we had the idea keying off of certain, quotes. We were fortunate enough to have the script sent to us, so we could actually like read through, and then we actually put together a second blog post that we did together that I don't think saw the light of day, but it was kind of a more extensive list of quotes with first Kai and then me responding to her response to the quotes. So I think, and there's enough resonance, with the play, and a lot of really amazing dialogue, particularly when Noah is kind of, talking about the experiences that about family. That's what I really keyed off of, and so
on. There's a lot going on today. I don't know what it is. Yeah, I think we kind of had a little conversation trying to think about what we were going to write. So I know for the first one, we kind of both did our own individual takes. And I know my dad had already seen like the read through of the play. And so it was awesome for me to then later be able to see the read through, but then also to read through the script. At first I was going to watch, then I decided to read, and then I went back to watch because I really like to read quite a lot. So for me, I kind of there were certain things that just stuck out. Basically, I think those are the quotes that I kind of pulled out to kind of start up our second blog post. But just kind of things that resonated a little bit, I think particularly because Jira and Noah have such a little bit of a tension kind of in the relationship. But like me and my dad have always been kind of like this. So it's very interesting kind of seeing that kind of difference or disconnect with the two of them. And those are the ones that tended to kind of stand out to me. So.
Okay. So Ryan is saying that your multi-quote blog is up.
Oh, okay.
So that's a good thing. And Van Smith is reporting that the blogs are moving and beautiful, and thanks you both for those. And so I'm curious, what were some of the lines that you that really were meaningful or memorable?
You want to start, Kai?
No, you go first.
I just pulled it up here. So I'm a little bit cheating. Well, there's one I think that Kai reacted to also in her first blog about needing the documentation. And again, this speaks to sort of like people are really not getting interracial sort of families when they're encountered and the different experiences we've had. And so in this second blog, I talk about when Caitlin was an infant and not yet, the adoption was still not finalized. We were living in New York City, and my wife's parents came to visit, and we took a bus up through Manhattan to the Cloisters. And so right around the top of Central Park, and the bus was super crowded, and we actually all got separated because of that. And so the bus stopped, and I'm looking out the window, and all of a sudden I see my wife on the sidewalk talking to two New York City police officers. And I'm like, well, what is happening here? So I made my way off of the bus and got out there. And it turns out the black bus driver had called the police because of Kathy holding a black infant and just kind of not having anywhere to kind of think about what was happening with that. And so thought he'd better just contact law enforcement. And it was a very, because the adoption wasn't finalized, it was kind of a frightening experience. But so that was, so having this kind of having to prove the kind of relationship, and Kaya wrote about this as well, particularly when they started getting older, her and her younger sister.
Mm.
Yeah, it's kind of weird when I think about it now. Just obviously, I don't remember that because I was very small, but just noticing kind of, and I wrote about it too, but like just noticing people like staring or making comments or questions if like, me and my dad are holding hands and then my sister and my mom are walking together, or, the four of us going to a restaurant, and not for nothing, I could have been on his back, he could have been standing on my head, and people would still try to seat the four of us separately. Or even just kind of questions that'll come up where, people meet me. I don't necessarily go out of my way to be like, hi, like my name's Kai, I'm adopted and my parents are white, because that's my story. And also like, I don't think that's necessarily the most important thing about me.
Right.
But, like people who then will maybe like find out and then, like comments are like, oh, I knew that. Or like, you talk white or blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you didn't know nothing about anything until I told you. Like, I don't even understand, so just kind of growing up with some of like, I guess I'd say kind of like foolishness or maybe lack of awareness in terms of kind of what that can do for folks. And I think one of the most poignant things is when I do tell people I'm adopted, they always say, I'm sorry. I think particularly Black and brown folks who I talk to, because I think that there's a lot of negative connotations with like what adoption looks like or having somebody else raising somebody's kids. And so like for me, like whenever anybody says, like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, or like, I feel bad or whatever, I'm like, don't feel bad for me. You know what I'm saying? My birth mom did me a huge service when, she recognized where she was at, recognized that I could have a better opportunity and a better life. And I got blessed to now be with my folks. Like I have nothing but gratitude for what that experience has been, like who I am now because of all those things. And so I definitely know like when people are like, I'm sorry, I'm like, don't be sorry. Like I was loved. I got family. They wrapped their arms around me and I came up and I'm here and happy. So yeah. I think that's some of it.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. So I can imagine that. I can imagine that can take a lot of energy to have to move through that on a daily basis. So I'm curious, where do both of you love to be or find the easiest place to exist and just be family together? Where's your favorite spots or spaces?
That's a good question. So Kai lives in Baltimore, and we still have a house in Baltimore because the two of us used to teach at Johns Hopkins. So we just have a little place in Mill Hill in Trenton. But I think probably in our, I don't know for what Kai would say, but just being together in the house in Baltimore with Kai's partner and my younger daughter, Kai's sister, and Kathy, and just enjoying the ambience of Baltimore, which does involve a lot of sirens in the background, as you can.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that. I think just being able to hang out. I think we all do a lot of traveling. We're always moving around. Obviously not in the last year so much, but like we all get a little itch to kind of be everywhere. So I think just times when we can all just be together and everybody's kind of like relaxed and chilling and we're laughing and having a good time. I think that those are some of the best times, like when we can plan to, whether it's like family brunch after church or maybe we're doing like a game night together or anything of that nature, just being able to hang out and like take a break from like the busyness of what life is, I feel like.
Yeah, the kind of the flip side of that is when we as a family went to China in the summer of 2011, and we were in a different city, not one of the major ones, but Caitlin became a celebrity because most of the Chinese that we encountered had not ever seen an African American person, so she got called Obama quite a bit. People wanted to take pictures with her, and yeah.
It made me realize I don't ever want to be famous.
Do you? Yeah.
I don't want that.
After 15 minutes and you're done.
Yeah, I'm over it now.
Check that off the list. Absolutely. So, there's that saying that art imitates life. So I'm curious, when we think about this show, so how right did this play get it?
I mean, obviously there's some differences, but I think the emotional tone of it was very honest and very, not necessarily our exact experience, but nothing ever felt false to me or like, oh, this is just the writer trying to do something right.
Yeah, no, definitely. It felt very real. And I was kind of thinking, like where I was when I was like 16, 17, you know, kind of just trying to grow up and be a bit of a brat, you know, but just like thinking about some of just what the emotions were, and some of the curiosities and things of that nature. Like one of the quotes that really hit me was when Jira was writing the letter to her birth mom that she wanted to send, and then the PS, if you decide you wouldn't like to meet me, I'd appreciate it. And if you could send a list of hereditary conditions or things I could look out for, thank you. And I was like, yes, sis, I feel that. Because overarchingly, like, I don't necessarily have too many questions. I have 2 biological brothers who I think would be super dope to like maybe encounter at some point in my life. But I think that's one of the questions that I've had, like, are there any like random health things that I need to know or things of that nature? And I know my folks have told me all the stuff that they know, but just kind of thinking like, okay, like what if like she doesn't want to meet me? Because I thought about that too. Even like, I wonder if she does, I wonder if she doesn't, I wonder if whatever, I wonder if that would be hard for you to now do, kind of thinking about the flip side of what that encounter could be. So just kind of Jira's, I don't know, I just thought it was really interesting to have her, you know, write this letter, tell a little bit about herself, but also if you're not comfortable with this thing, that's fine. But would you mind letting me know some stuff just in case? That moved me quite a bit, but I felt like it was all really on point.
When we think about kind of the messages that come from putting together a collective viewing experience of someone's story and to this depth, I'm curious, when you think about all the messages that were in this particular play, what do you think that are the most important messages for the audience to take away from this story, this family story?
Well, I was puzzling about the title of the play, Twist of Water, and thinking, I mean, the thing that, having lived in Chicago, I went to graduate school in Chicago and knew a little bit about the history, especially about the reversing of the water flow of the Chicago River. So I thought that's maybe what that refers to, that there's like this heroic effort to turn the tide, right? Particularly, you know, and then the Chicago fire comes into this quite a bit too, about a tragedy happens and you have to rebuild, right? And how do you rebuild, and that kind of thing. And of course that happens to, you know, the characters in different ways. So, and there's a really interesting phrase that comes up at the very beginning of the play and at the end of the play about unearned hope, which really struck me because I never thought of, you know, hope as something earned or unearned. So it made me sort of pause. But this idea that Chicago wouldn't exist without someone just hoping, without any kind of evidence to that this could work, that you kind of venture out in life and things happen, but you can't really build anything without that perseverance and just keeping going in the face of setbacks and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's like it's a beautiful story of like what unconditional love looks like. I think that, you know, everybody there's all kinds of definitions of what family are. You know, you have fictive kin, you have blood relatives, you have people who you are your chosen family. And I think there's, you know, I'm looking back, you know, I'm about to be 29 years old, and thinking about my 17-year-old self. And I know that I've had plenty of conversations with my folks, like in my more recent 20s, where I'm like, thank y'all for putting up with all the things that were happening when I was younger, because I didn't necessarily get it because you were a kid, but kind of being able to look back and be like, okay, like I kind of put y'all through the ringer a little bit, but you guys are always there. Like if I needed to call somebody in the middle of the night because of who even knows what, you're answering the phone, you're calling me back, you're picking me up, you're sending help, you're doing whatever it is you need to do. And that's like what parenting is, that's what family is. And so kind of for her to be able to see, I'm sure Jira 10 years from now would have, you know, said thank you for the fact that even if you didn't really want to do this thing and have me meet my birth mother, you stood by me with it. You were in there in that space with me and you supported me when I needed it, even though that was kind of being a little crazy. So it's just kind of being able to look back and see what that is. I think it's just a beautiful story of what unconditional love is and like what being a parent is, and kind of hopefully being able to develop those relationships in a capacity where like now you can be friends and do stuff like this, you know? So
yeah. So Tim, in one of your blog posts, you talked about you actually picked out this line that stood out to me as well. As kind of about we need to basically in this fight, and you do it because of family, but we also have to forget, right, to be able to grow into who we are. And I was hoping you could talk a little bit more about kind of the impact of that line and why it prompted you to blog about it. I was curious after I read it. I thought, in the show, it talks about this ongoing fight, this epic kind of ongoing fight that shapes this emergence of Chicago, this massive city. And I felt like, wow, have Kai and Tim been feeling this kind of undercurrent of a fight, especially with the stuff that's happened to us as a human race and as a nation over the past few years, and wondering what you were feeling like. Do you guys feel like you're in this undercurrent of a fight, and how is that showing up for you? And what would you share about that in that thought?
Yeah. So the fight sort of idea works on a couple levels. Obviously, Jira and Noah have, as Kai said, a tense relationship. There's some words exchanged, hurtful words back and forth, and so on. And so there's that kind of intergenerational fight within the family. But I was also thinking, and this is, if I remember right, what I wrote about is kind of like there's a larger fight of fighting for our kind of a family in the face of misunderstanding and prejudice and so on. And especially in the last few years, as you said, this sort of the racial tensions, which were never very good. And it was, so Kai was born in Charleston, South Carolina, and Kathy and I were both. I'm from California. Kathy's from Minnesota. This was our first time in the South, and I think, and I was, involved in studying an African Methodist Episcopal congregation, and my wife was interviewing both white and African American single mothers. It was just so eye-opening for us to be in that space. And where race, especially in the early 1990s, was way more sort of in your face than I had ever experienced that sort of before, from the white Southern folks, I guess. And we were sort of immediately cataloged as Yankees. So we were kind of, given different kind of status than most people, I guess. But it was a real education for us about race and race relations and race history in the U.S. that, and I think being in a place like that, it just brings it home to you in such a visceral, experiential way. And so we were determined that we wanted to do anything. We felt a calling, I'll put it this way, to be part of the healing of the racial divide in this country, in personal, professional, and any other type of way that we could. So,
when if you think about the experience that you all have had, I've always been curious. Once you experience something, you start to kind of look back and say, wow, if I knew then what I know now, I would have done this different, or I would have suggested, or I would love to see this change about this process. Either one of you ever have any any ideas or wishes around this kind of adoption story that you all have that you wish, hey, I wish they would change, or I would advise this, or I would advise a family coming into this kind of relationship to do this or don't do this? What wisdom could you share?
I think particularly for like transracial adoptions in particular, but maybe it could be across the board. I think being open to having the conversations, and as the parents, like, do your research, but also like you have to be ready for the fact that you're not necessarily going to understand all the things that are going on with your kid, but you do need to be there. I think that, for myself, I just appreciated those spaces, just being able to kind of share things, which is not to say that it didn't ever get heated, when we're having conversations, because there's some stuff that's particularly near and dear to my heart that I've been feeling the need to share. But I think being open to recognizing that you're not necessarily going to get everything.
Yeah.
Still, it's your job to protect your kid, and to be there and to take the time to learn the things, help them experience all the things that you can help them experience to like a certain extent. I feel like my folks kind of supported me in all the things that I wanted to do, and certain aspects of my own racial identity I didn't necessarily struggle with as much. But I love to play basketball, and my dad schlepped me around all of the Northeast every weekend, hours and hours and hours, all the time, because that's what it was, and that's what they supported while I played on an AAU team. Or when I came out to them, which I guess at this point is almost 10 years ago now, but just being open and ready and willing to have the conversations, and ask the questions of things that maybe you didn't necessarily know. And I'm totally down to share with you if you're going to ask me in a respectful space. But just really recognizing that, particularly in some of these spaces, like as a queer Black female living in America, there's some things you guys aren't going to get. But I also still want you guys to be standing alongside me and being allies and trying to continue to educate yourself, because ignorance isn't an excuse.
Yeah.
And so taking the time to do that and create those spaces and making learning as much as you can, I think that's one of the things I think I'd take away from that, or potentially urge folks who are interested in adopting, have a heart to do so, particularly across racial boundaries, like definitely just take the time to educate yourself.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, very well said. I guess the thing, if I were to say to somebody about our experience, I'd say looking at Caitlin's growing up, or Kai, sorry, this is my I guess it was a visceral sort of watching her struggle with some of the racial identity sort of things, as well as becoming an adult, like all of that happening kind of at the same time. And we moved around a lot. We lived in Boston, we lived in Philadelphia, in Chicago / Evanston. We lived in Camden, New Jersey for a little while, doing some research there. So in all of these places, and the kids were all at different ages, obviously, at these different things. But I think one of the things that really educated Kathy and myself on was how, we never got kind of, and this is where education is good, but maybe not sufficient. We never got till we were parents of children of color, how difficult it is to be a person of color in this country. So I think, and not that we still, we get it fully now, but it's when you're connected to someone you're so passionately, care about, to see the struggles they deal with because of sexual orientation or race or whatever, it hits you in a way that simply just being an ally from the sidelines, I think it never could quite reach that.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So I'm checking to see if there are any questions that are coming in from the audience. I want to throw that out there. Whoever is in the viewing audience, you certainly can ask questions. I just have one left for me. And so, when you're asked to be part of a talkback and you're sitting and staring at yourself in the mirror and practicing your answers, and you're thinking, if they ask me this, I am going to knock it out of the park. So, is there anything you want us to know? Anything that you want to talk about that I didn't ask you?
Wow, I can't think of anything. I think you've done a great job. And, gosh, I can't think of anything.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Honestly, I was kind of just going to echo that. I'm super appreciative to be here, to kind of be able to occupy this space for a little while, and share a little bit about our own kind of story. It's been really awesome. And I feel like it's kind of one of those things. It's had me just thinking. I talked about the play with some of my friends. I told them about what I was doing. I also told them I don't really know what a talkback is for real, but I like to talk, so I can.
Exactly what it is. Yeah.
And I'm pretty quick on my feet. So I was like, we can do this, but I'm just super appreciative for kind of the opportunity for, my dad reaching out and saying that he wanted to do this thing. I feel like, you get a little older, you get a little busier, I guess technically I'm an adult now or whatever, more or less. So, it's like, it's nice to be able to do another thing together. I kind of miss someone what that would look like, when I was in high school and things of that nature, and you have more time. So this has been a super dope opportunity, and I'm super appreciative to be able to be here. We did a rock star job.
Well, we thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about giving us a glimpse into this, father-daughter relationship thing. That it's a thing. So I appreciate you guys sharing your part of your story and being vulnerable and the blog posts. Really it's certainly raised my awareness and really made me think about a fair number of things. And I've got some questions from my dad too. So everyone, thank you for joining us for this talkback. Please be well and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Great. Thanks again, Cherry.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.